It's 7:31. I want to move things along if that's okay. First of all, I want to welcome everybody this morning to this morning's presentations. I want to thank all of the gold sponsors for CSHE that are online today. Today's presentation is being recorded and will be available at cshe.net later viewing. I'd ask everybody to mute their microphones while the presentation is in place so we can reduce the chatter. So I just want to give a little bit of background of the speakers' bios today. Seth Baruch is the National Director for the Energy and Utilities at Kaiser Permanente and is responsible for managing sustainable energy programs across the organization, including solar projects at 100 different hospitals, data centers, and medical office buildings. Part of this program includes the development of microgrids and rapid installation of electric vehicle charging stations across Kaiser Permanente's portfolio. Seth has also led the effort for Kaiser Permanente to achieve carbon neutrality in 2020. He has spent his career developing clean energy projects and programs. He's at a multi-million-dollar initiative at the Washington, D.C. based Alliance to save energy to improve energy efficiency in the former Soviet Union. He later founded his own company, Quality Tons, that designed projects to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And also our second speaker, Alberto Colombo. He is the founder of DernNetSoft. It's basically a mission-driven innovator of 20 years of experience in entrepreneurship between corporate and clean energy startup companies. He has been a major contributor on the EPIC grant team awarded by California Energy Commissions for $1.5 million in the Advanced Energy Communities category and is the co-author of multiple patents. And with that, I'd like to say good morning, Seth. Good morning, Alberto.
Hey, Brian, I'm gonna go ahead and kick them off, and that was an excellent introduction. But I've had the pleasure of working very closely with Seth when I was at Program Office, and he has, as the introduction did, definitely been doing a fabulous job for Kaiser in all of our energy opportunities and getting us to where we're at, and Alberto and the work he does. But I wanted to kind of kick this off to the fact that, you know, many of you know that I've been the Energy to Care liaison for CSHE for many years. I'm actually looking for a replacement at this time. And our state has done a fabulous job. We've had back-to-back chapter challenge wins. We've won 3 chapter challenges since we've been doing this. And we've done a lot of great work throughout the state. And some folks are probably a little bit exhausted. But I know when I first got started, to really understand where the opportunities were it was difficult. You know, we run big facilities. There's people turning switches on and off, plugging things in all over the place. And as well as engineers getting the control system and overriding this and bypassing that. And the ability to identify those little things is challenging and is very difficult. And those of you know that usually when I do a presentation, I'm going to share it with you again, if you see my email, I've got my favorite quote, that measurement is the first step that leads to control and eventually to improvement. If you can't measure something, you can't understand it. If you can't understand it, you can't control it. And if you can't control it, you can't improve it. And what Alberto and Seth are going to talk about, especially with all of the energy opportunities we had, until we could really get that fine-tuned measurement, 15-minute intervals, changes the ballgame. So pay attention to this presentation. Got a lot of good stuff and definitely tools to help each of you really understand what's going on in your facilities and where the opportunities are to save energy. So with that, I'll turn it over to Seth and Alberto. Good morning, guys.
Great. Thanks so much, Dave. And thanks everyone for giving us the opportunity to present here today. So Alberto, you can go to the next slide. I lead, as was mentioned in the introduction, an effort to place on our facilities as much sustainable energy infrastructure, broadly speaking, as possible. So on-site solar, battery storage, fuel cells, what we call DERs, or distributed energy resources. And Kaiser's a big enterprise, big organization. And what we've learned, and really the main theme of this presentation, is all the things you can do when you have information. Now 15-minute interval data for electricity, and as you'll see in a little bit for natural gas as well, is something, at least for electricity, has been available for a long time from utilities. But it has been historically very hard to get, and it's not usually delivered in a form that's very usable. And so when you can create a platform where you can aggregate this data over many buildings over a long period of time, you start to see patterns that lead you to be able to do actionable things. And I will describe some of those actionable things. But it was sort of a journey. That's why we have chapter 1 here, which is, don't worry, it's not a very long novel, but we had this problem where we, it's not just we get our energy source from one utility like PG&E, we get it from multiple solar power purchase agreement providers, fuel cell providers, and we just don't have the bandwidth. I mean, it's basically the energy team at Kaiser is me and one other person. So when you do a few projects, it's not a problem. But as you get to the scale that we're getting at here, we didn't have the bandwidth to be able to audit or assess the performance of these solar, fuel cell, and battery storage projects. And so we were looking for a solution, and we finally found one. It took a while, but this solution has, again, this was just the first chapter. We've now grown on this journey to be able to do some other kind of interesting things. So go to the next slide. So as many of you know, a lot of these distributed energy resources are done through third party, and Kaiser likes to do this as well, where a vendor comes, builds the unit, owns and operates it, and all we do as a total turnkey solution is pay a price per kilowatt hour. So we started this with solar and fuel cells, and as we started installing fuel cells, we were noticing that just sort of an anecdotal spot checking kind of basis that our gas costs were going up because these are fuel cells powered by natural gas, but our electricity costs weren't really going down correspondingly. And as we learned, sometimes these fuel cells were oversized. They were, these are 24/7 baseload type energy delivery systems where you can't really turn them off. And so in the middle of the night, you might be exporting to the grid, net metering, and selling that surplus to the grid, usually at a very low rate because it's at off-peak times. And so we kind of examined this a little bit, but we couldn't really assess it at a whole enterprise level. So with this platform, with DirdNetSoft help basically customized for us, is we were able to look across all of our fuel cell sites. We could see exactly when and how much these fuel cells were exporting to the grid by taking 15-minute interval data and being able to present it to us in a usable form. So as you see here, this little image is, when those dips, which for this particular site represent weekends, we were able to see that, oh, actually we were losing money. And as a result of that, this site, it wasn't so bad, but across 30 or so different locations, we were able to see that actually the fuel cell, the net metering levels were much higher than we needed, than we wanted them to be, and it was really impacting the economics of doing these projects. And so as a result, our vendor downsized these fuel cells, and we asked them to purposely downsize additional ones because we wanted to do LED lighting, or we wanted to do energy efficiency projects, which, if you're producing too much energy on site, it kind of kills the incentive to do that. So this was one example of how we were able to take 15-minute interval data, take a platform, and actually do something different that we weren't doing before. And everyone thinks that DERs are so great, but in effect, these DERs, these distributed energy resources, need to be properly sized. And this was another tool. Unfortunately, came a little too late for some of these locations, but now we have a much better sense of how to properly size both solar and fuel cell projects. So going to the next slide. So our solar projects mostly are like fuel cells, where it's a turnkey where there's a third-party provider, and they build and own operate the sites, and we just pay a price per kilowatt hour. Now, again, when you have so many solar sites, it's very hard to audit. You've got, now we probably have 80 different locations and counting. That's 80 times 12 bills a year, and so we didn't have the ability to do it. But what this platform is able to do is to ingest the solar production data along with the ability to kind of review all of our contracts. Now, all of our contracts do have a minimum level of production. So there's this expected production, and there's the actual. And if the actual is less than 85% of the expected, we can get a credit. We can get compensated for that. Again, no easy way to do that with spot checking, but the system enabled us to do that very quickly. So we audit, through sort of an automated system, and then we can tell the vendor, hey, over the last 12 months, your output's been, 76% instead of 85%. Here's the invoice. So that was one tool we were able to just kind of build from the initial net metering analysis. So Alberto, if you go to the next slide. The other thing we noticed is, we're all human, we all make mistakes, and that there actually is a fair number of billing errors. They've definitely gone down, but in the beginning, we noticed that either we get bills where the price per kilowatt hour was wrong, or escalated at the wrong time, or the number of kilowatt hours billed was, impossibly too high for the size of the system. And so, again, nothing that we could do systematically, but with the building of this platform, we were able to notice when billing errors were made, and there is definitely a tendency that the billing errors that do occur are never really in our favor. And the vendor was very, acted totally appropriately, fixed it, and that was fine. But again, we just wouldn't have had the ability to do that, to identify those errors. So again, another use of this 15-minute interval tool that also corresponds with production data from the DERs themselves. Okay, so that was chapter one. So our ability to kind of assess the performance of our DERs, optimize their performance, size them appropriately, et cetera. Then we said, okay, well, actually, there's some interesting things we could do with this 15-minute interval data. And so we sort of build to the next level, which is, and people on this call, I'm sure, are very familiar with demand charge management, where you get the highest, the demand charge, which can be 50% of your bill, at least in some Kaiser service areas like PG&E, if you hit that peak demand for any 15-minute period during a month, that's that's expensive. That's real money, and so we always have these daily peaks. But with this platform, we're able to see where there are some sort of what we call abnormal peaks, where you could be saving, in this case, $10,000 per month if you simply got the abnormal peak down to the regular peak, so we were able to see when, where, and by how much these excessive peaks were occurring, and could notify the facility, hey, you've got this challenge here, you should really take a look at it. Maybe there's something you can do. So if you go to the next slide, again, we could do this at one facility, but we have hundreds and hundreds of facilities. And so the point of this slide is only that we're able to identify these abnormal peaks. And this is just sort of a distribution of where, what point during the day, mostly in the afternoon, not surprisingly, and sort of the magnitude of the abnormal peak by facility. Again, with this actionable information, we can go to some of these sites. We say, hey, look, you've had these abnormal peaks. They happen every few months, or they happen during the summer. Some opportunity, perhaps, for some low-hanging fruit. So again, taking information that we might be able to get for a few sites, or for a couple of billing periods, but to develop a system where you can do it every site, every month, and really identify patterns and trends. So going to the next slide. Okay, so we said, okay, well, this is really good for right sizing our DERs. It's good for demand charge management, identifying opportunities for where there's some opportunities. So then someone in our organization came to us and said, hey, since you've got access to all this 15-minute interval data, we have some interesting exercise here. We would like to sort of see, how much maybe the likelihood of there being excessive nighttime energy use where, systems aren't turned back as much as they could be. So we went to the DerNetSoft team. We said, okay, can you, across all the meters that you're monitoring across an entire year on average, tell us what the load is at 4 a.m. and what the load is at 2 p.m. And so what you're looking at here is, and you just focus on the third column there, the ratio of 4 a.m. to 2 p.m. loads. Again, this is a point in time averaged over an entire year. And the closer the ratio is to 1, that means that pretty much the nighttime energy use is equivalent to daytime energy use. And so at the hospitals, which are 24/7 facilities, they're interestingly kind of in a tight range here. The 4 a.m. load is about 70% of the daytime load. And then there are some sort of model examples there where, systems were being turned down a lot at night. And then we saw there are some MOBs that, are just really 9 to 5 type facilities or 8 to 6 or 7 facilities, but they're not occupied in the middle of the night. And you can see down there at the bottom, like, wow, at 4 a.m., it's using as much electricity pretty much as at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. So again, what we had there is a prioritized list of all the things, all the buildings where there's the potential for change. And so that gave us a lot of potential energy savings to mine. Again, if you do this at one point in time in one building, but across multiple points in time across hundreds of buildings, this is what this enabled us to do. So if you go to the next slide. So then we said, okay, typically, we look at energy intensity. So, watts per square foot. And so we looked at some of the really small ones there, the ones that are below 1 and 1 watt per square foot. And then we see, well, some of these are, like 6 times that. That's and not only are hospitals or central utility plants or data centers, there are, medical clinics that shut down in the evening hours. So this sort of gave us another way to look at the analysis, and that led us to some interesting thinking. And if you go to the next slide, Alberto, I can describe what that was. We said, well, what if we just had sort of this policy or this or encouraged buildings to get from wherever they are to 1 watt per square foot? And this is just across 130 different locations. We could be saving $1.7 million a year at just these 130 that we looked at in this initial exercise. And there may be reasons why facilities can't or won't do that. There are labs, there are facilities that do operate in the evening hours, and there are concerns around, if you turn systems off, if you turn them back on, they won't get to the right temperature, by the time patients and staff are coming in. So, we started sort of asking questions. We sent emails around to people saying, hey, we've noticed this sort of energy use trend that seems a little out of whack. What do you think here? And if you go to the next slide. So we went to one MOB and we said, okay, you're actually the MOB that had on the earlier slide where the 4 a.m. load was about equal to the 2 p.m. load. And we said, look, we looked at the 15-minute interval data, and we see that, basically, your energy systems are totally on at night. And what you're looking here is at this image is you see these dips. Those dips represent the weekends. So what was happening here, we could see, is that the facility manager, basically kept the systems on all night, HVAC, et cetera, but would turn them off Friday night and then turn them back on Monday morning. And we said, well, okay, could you maybe adjust your settings so that you actually were turning things off, doing what you're doing on the weekends, but doing it every day of the week? And they said, okay, yeah, we'll try it. And you can see, you see the end of the story there. The moment where they actually changed the nighttime settings, this is saving them, tens of thousands of dollars a year and totally changed the profile. So you saw that 97% earlier. It's probably now half that. So this is, an example of this was a needle in a haystack. We never would have been able to identify this opportunity. And we're using this now as a case study to go tell other people, hey, maybe you want to turn down your HVAC systems and other systems at night when you don't really, really need them. If you really need them, okay, let's have that discussion. Or if there's some investment that needs to, to separate zones or something that we can, get partial away there, let's have that discussion, because we're very happy to work with you to develop a business case, to make the investment for more rational energy usage. All right, go to the next slide. So last thing here, and then I'll be quiet, is so everything you've just seen is for electricity. Every facility has a smart meter for electricity where this 15-minute interval data is available. We have just learned that with SoCalGas in Southern California, with many, many buildings, we have smart-ish meters for gas as well, not 15-minute, but hourly usage data, hourly use meters. We don't seem to have that much in PG&E territory, but we did the same exercise. We said, okay, let's look at energy use or gas usage patterns. And what this analysis did is it didn't look at one point in time. It looked at a 6-hour period, midnight to 6 a.m. compared to noon to 6 p.m. So daily use during the peak part of the day and the quietest part of the night. And we actually were surprised. What you're looking at there on the left is the fact that the gas usage in therms per hour at this particular building was higher than during the day. So I don't know, maybe there's a reason for that. We're now, this is sort of hot off the press. We just recently got this data, so now we're sort of exploring. And then on the right is, what more would you expect, which is gas usage, being lower at nighttime than during the daytime, although not dramatically so. So we then, again, these were two buildings. We said, okay, let's do this for all of the meters we have with SoCalGas. And Albert, if you go to the next slide, we were really surprised at the range. So this ratio, this is the last slide, and then I'll stop geeking out on everybody here. But so the average usage ratio, which means at the top level there, that means that on average, that building uses 1/3 the amount of natural gas during those daytime hours, on average over the course of a year, as during the nighttime. I'm sorry. So nighttime is 1/3 of the daytime usage. So 3 times therms per hour during the day, which seems to make sense. But then you go down that list and it goes up to 4 or 5 times the more gas usage at night than during the day. So I was surprised at the range of what we're seeing here. Again, this is a subset of buildings. We don't have that many facilities that have these smart gas meters. But at some of these MOBs, we've got 2, 3, 4 times the nighttime usage as the daytime usage. We have some investigating to do. So that is, so I think those are all my slides. Again, I guess the main theme here is when you have access to this information, if you've got lots and lots of facilities, this is how you find the needles in the haystack. And as it turns out, I suspect there are a lot of needles here. So our job from here is to go talk to these facility managers and say, is there something we could do here that's different? Can we have the example of the other MOB that changed its nighttime settings? And if you did this, Kaiser's got over 1,000 buildings. You did this at 100, right? That's a major change in our energy use patterns, and gets us much closer to our overall EUI goals for the enterprise. So with that, I think I'll pass it over to Alberto.
Thank you, Seth.
Sure.
Yeah, I think we'll leave some Q&A at the end. So I'll complement Seth's presentation use cases with sort of overview on the technology. So first of all, I would like to introduce my company. DRNetSoft is an energy analytics service provider. We are based in San Francisco, and we cover all California, United States. We started from healthcare, but now we are going and using the platform in other sectors such as water or government. from the picture you see, we actually have a mission to integrate and analyze data coming from not just meters, but from what we think it's going to be it's already being in the DR, distributed energy resource data stream. So I'll go into the technology, and I just want to talk about how everything Seth was talking about is possible today. So we really are trying to support. We support our customer in going from a analog approach to a more data-driven digital approach, and going from paper bills approach to a more, as I said, real-time kind of data management. But we found out that going and submetering location, trying to get real-time data as a first step can be very expensive. So we really unlock, or we saw a lot of value on trying to get 50 minutes interval data, as Dave in the introduction was saying, and Seth showed. Actually, there is a lot of value, and there is a possibility to start to build some closed loop feedback loop in what you're doing. So you make the adjustment, and you have the capability to see if those adjustment works and really brings benefit in a short time. You don't have to wait like 1 month, 2 months, because the next bill is coming, to see if the energy efficiency measure you adopted actually was okay. So actually I wanted to highlight the three major block of the technology stack that enable this data-driven approach. So we have advanced metering in infrastructure, which is a fancy name for smart meter. Then we have actually the system that consume those data. And the third is industry expertise. So if we go into the first, and we talk about AMI or smart meter, actually it looks incredible, but it's a two-way communication, basically, a system that enable a meter to send data to directly to system. And the utility actually has a lot of those meter, and they are doing this a bit to reduce cost on really operation on the meter, to have more control on electricity consumption, cost and bills, to help and support customer energy efficiency improvement, and also on their side to lower all the operation and outage cost. But we don't know actually that the adoption of smart meter in the United States has been growing, and it will grow over the next years. So I took some actually updated statistics, and as 2020, about 65% of electricity meter in United States are have smart capability, and there is a plan to get to 90% of smart meter deployed by 2030. And these capability actually help the utility to engage commercial, industrial, or even a residential customer with those smart meter into energy program, which we see as the norm in the future in a vision of grid connected building. So the first pillar was how we can get the data, and right now actually lots of utility has those data, but then you need some sort of system that consume the data and make those data in a digital or standard format. And that's what usually where our system come. Our DerneSoft platform can be seen as energy management information system, in which as from this picture that I took from the Berkeley Lawrence National Lab framework for energy analytics, basically took intervals data, billing data, and then provide services. Actually, as this picture referring, I like that because actually it represents very well what we do. Bills and interval data are not the only data we can collect. Actually, we do integrate weather data, which are very important for some type of analysis on data on energy. We also get distributed energy resources data, as Seth mentioned. When you start to have solar, fuel cell, CHP on site, actually meter data are just one of the streams you need to understand what is your facility picture, and have the right data in place to actually analyze and set some action for improvement. In terms of capability, we are more focused on analysis and data analysis and energy information system. We don't do fault detection or automation system. We do integrate with those systems. The other interesting thing I wanted to share is from this campaign that Berkeley Labs did. It was interesting how they show that over hundreds of companies that adopted these kind of systems, the return on investment, it was like 2 years, so really short. And out of the starting, they get a 3% energy savings from their installation. So those are numbers that say, hey, maybe there is a reason or makes sense to start adopting those kind of system. The third pillar is what is more industry specific. So how then you can consume those data and you can actually create analytics to analyze and provide insight and support use cases. So Seth already showed several use cases. I just want to give you some other examples in different spaces, so you can have a broader understanding of what it's possible with when you have those data available. So in the commercial industrial space, for example, California Water Services, which is a water utility, had a problem, which was to monitor 1,200 meters in their territory. And to read the meter, they were sending operator. So to cover 1,200 meters and read and make the reading, it's kind of daunting task and very expensive. And you cannot do every week, right? So they were collecting data basically every 3 months. We actually show the potential of the smart meter, and we were able to automate all those processes. So now they can collect data every 2 days, and they don't need anyone to send out. So you can imagine how happy the operator are, but how their budgeting process, how their monitor process are now improved with this new digital way to collect those data. Another analytics we do with this data, for example, for other customers, is rolling UI. That's a way to track your facility improvement over time. We can do energy audit. 50 minutes interval data is exactly the granularity of data that a utility use or third party use to do measure and validation or credit accounting. You can see here the actually bill or credit billed every month, and the red line is what the platform calculated. So you can see that basically there is some time in which we don't converge because it's just a matter that we calculate in advance or we audit in advance what actually has been as billed later. But it's pretty much a good way to check if a utility or third party can bill you properly. And trust me, we find error all the time. I think we already talked about excess generation on the fuel cell. Also cities, it's another good example because cities usually have a large number of facility. So this platform approach can be really helpful on make some sort of analysis. In Saleandro, for example, we took all the portfolio, we ran our DR engine to basically identify the best place for solar storage. So we were able to track energy and to do a quick energy audit for all the facility, identify the best site and the size, PV solar energy storage, and all financial benefits for those with the platform. And CO2 reduction is a big part of those analytics. And then also kind of provide them with the sort of summary table in which actually each facility could be suitable for which kind of program that the utility. So we don't go just into doing a simulation of energy storage or PV solar, but we also can simulate what would be the behavior of the facility if they want to participate to a demand response program, for example. The last example I just want to mention is for residential. Maybe you're not interested, but it's a nice example to see how also artificial intelligence can be implemented on top of those data. We basically tracked the community in Saleandro. It was a residential community. We were able to monitor their consumption, to suggest some behavioral changes, and track their improvement. And actually, we show that once you have the data and you can act and you can verify, you can really make a difference. And they were able to save 23% on their monthly bills, just having at their fingertips this kind of data. And I think we're done. So those are our contacts. So just feel free to contact us. But I would open for a question. I think we have time.
Thank you so much, Alberto. There is a question that did come in. Let me read the first one. Do the building facility managers get the monthly energy bills, or are they managed by Kaiser Permanente Energy Group?
No, the sites get the bills. I don't know if they really look at them. But yeah, there's a system where the billing is automatically, the bills are automatically paid once they're approved. So yeah, the sites get the bills and have to say okay, but I don't know how often they really look at them. I don't think they pay much attention.
Okay, thank you, Seth.
Mm-hmm.
There was another question also that came in. Were there billing discrepancies? What reasons, excuses do the solar or fuel cell companies give? I asked to inform engineers and developers.
They just were sorry. Yeah, thanks for catching this. We'll fix it. There's not really a whole lot of excuses given. It's more just, it's more acknowledgements, I would say. I feel that the billing error thing has gotten better. Maybe it's just, some of these companies, sometimes they, the PPAs get transferred to other companies and their management systems aren't really, they're sort of, emerging, right? They're kind of not really having fixed all the glitches in their system. But yeah, it's we don't really get, I don't have a clear trend as to the kind of excuses we get, but certainly once it's presented to them, there's acknowledgement and sort of an agreement to do better.
Right. Yeah, Brian, I actually asked that question. Thanks, Steph. I was just trying to, is it like a software billing or a hardware? But I think what I hear from you, Seth, there's no specific trend.
Yeah, there's not often are explanations given to us, and we don't necessarily ask for them. We just say, fix it.
Right.
And I mean, there's a real, if it kept happening, we'd say, okay, what gives here? But as I said, I think overall it's gotten better.
Okay, great.
Seth, when you were talking about gas usage, wouldn't you expect gas usage at night to be higher than the day, since the temperatures are cooler at night than the day?
Yeah, although you think that I don't know, I would think that that would be counterbalanced by turning down, setting back the temperatures more at night, because you don't need to heat the buildings as much. And the ratios did seem kind of out of whack to me. Some of these buildings were quite a bit higher, many times higher. But what was interesting is just the huge range. We had a lot of buildings where it was used that were using less gas at night than during the day. So Kaiser's pretty decentralized, and the decision making is very localized. So people can kind of choose to run their buildings at where they want to run them at. And I think that is just reflective of a lot of different styles and views that people have in terms of what systems they want to run at nighttime.
Thank you.
Yeah. Can I add on that? I think that what we have seen working in the healthcare with several customers is that actually when you have a large different type of sites, the gas usage can be different. So you can really have some reference for a category of buildings, and often other customers ask us in that particular territory what would be a good reference to work towards. So I think that once we can create a standard, that would be really helpful as a reference to share between different healthcare providers, always without any personal information, but to really create some standard that can be a good reference to work on.
Dave, did you want to chime in on any last thoughts in regards to your experience working with Seth and Alberto?
Well, I definitely want to thank them for this presentation, and I haven't had as much here in Roseville. Our municipality has had pretty good rates and other things. We are looking to put a little solar and a few other things on here, but Alberto and the software, we saw that early on when we were wanting to measure our energy performance at my facility at the 15-minute interval data. And there's so much going on in your facility, especially with gas. You need that measurement. You need that data to really open your eyes and see what's going on. Because there's just, again, how many of you have an engineer that gets a call and says, hey, it's too cold over here? And instead of going and checking that VAV or the box, the valve or something like that, goes and makes that override adjustment and says, okay, I'm going to take care of that wing. I'm going to take care of that unit. Next thing you know, that override is in place for months on end. And again, as Seth showed there, you see a nighttime or a weekend operation that is not the normal thing you should have. So this to me is just one of those tools in your toolbox. And again, as I opened up, the more power opportunities, the more programs you have, the more savings you're looking at. Between solar, fuel cells, batteries, cogen, all this other stuff, unless you're managing that stuff too, you could lose sight of any savings at all. And those third parties are going to be, just collecting the money they can. So really being able to watch and have this at your fingertips help, because we're all very busy. We don't have time to be constantly watching. Like Seth said, how often do they get on and look at your bills and see what's going on? So having the flags, having the alerts, just is a huge opportunity for each of you to just better manage your operation. So it's just so important to be able to do that. And again, John and I, we presented to KI yesterday on microgrids, and John shared, and we saw it at Richmond, vendors providing stuff and going out of business, being gone, and other things coming on and not having support. So this whole industry has some challenges that if we're not equipped to really manage and monitor it, watch out, because you could get stuck with stuff that isn't supported anymore and other problems. So really just, and again, Seth and Alberta have done an absolutely great job. Seth, and again, I was in program office with him. He has no power whatsoever. He's a two-man operation. He has to talk to 39 Kaiser facilities. Say, come on, people, do this, watch this. And he, we say, well, wait a second, I got COVID going on. I got this going on. I don't have time for that stuff. So having those tools just helps you all do a better job. And again, I will preach this till I'm not preaching anymore. Energy opportunities are your opportunity to get to that C-suite, get your AFO, your COO listening to you and helping you get more money to do your staffing, to do RCM, do other programs you want to do. When you can show them the money that you're saving, that has a lot to say, and they listen to that. So I always encourage everybody, go after the money first thing, and then you can ask for a little bit back once you made those savings. So that's what I would add to the commentary. Oh, Brian, you're on mute. There you go.
Thank you, Dave. Tom, any thoughts, any input?
Well, I just want to thank Seth and Colombo for the great presentation. Thought it was very informative, very relevant. And, I agree with Dave, that, data should be driving our decisions, measurement, validation, to validate that, the conservation measures we're putting into place are actually paying off. And I just thought it was interesting to see how much can actually be done automated.
Thank you. Looks like we have a last question. David Bliss, you had your hand up. Did you have a question you want to ask?
If you don't mind, I was just going to make a couple quick comments. Alberto and Seth, I know you both, and thank you very much for a very good presentation. I think there's a few additional things I would bring to support Alberto's mission and what can be done. And it's a bit granular, but bear with me. One of the things that I think facilities are going to discover, because we've seen this at Richmond with our microgrid that we installed there, is the granular energy data tells you a lot about facility characteristics you would be otherwise completely unaware of. So, for example, you can see load characteristics start to drift, and that can be an indicator of impending failure of systems or at least malfunction. And that actually happened with one of the chillers at Richmond at the outset of that project. And we witnessed contemporaneous significant change in load and helped that get picked up. The other thing is you can see changes in building characteristics over time. And so as you, it's not a static thing, right? And so I think a few of the engineers mentioned, you can see characteristics change and then have something to go after to look at where the change is coming from. Is that the sort of gradual decline of systems? And a third thing, which I think is a future question, but will come online in part as a consequence of the kind of work that Alberto is doing, is power factor and how that's affecting the efficiency of systems within buildings. Because when you look at hospitals in particular, and for the electrical engineers all in this group understand that having low power factor values, number one, you pay a utility penalty. That's fairly nominal. But number two, more importantly, it really does cut the efficiency of a lot of devices. And the ability to intervene upon that, which is complex and beyond the scope of today's discussion, but which will come up as energy resources are deployed for that purpose, you can actually sort of start to perfect power in bigger buildings and really improve their performance overall. The last comment was to the question somebody asked earlier about why gas might be used more in daytime. I think one of the explanations, because this has come up in my discussions in the Energy Committee at OSHPD, or now HCI, is reheating of air as you are running rapid air exchanges during the day in order to not cool your building excessively is a major source of therm usage. And it's surprising how much energy is needed to reheat that air. Anyway, thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you. John, I see your hand up. Did you want to add another question?
You're on mute.
You're on mute, John.
Thank you. This question's for Roberto. Helping my other customers in healthcare, and also myself, trying to understand the PG&E bills is very difficult, especially when you're looking at different rates and when we get a time of use. And it was sort of my question to Seth. I'm an electrical engineer and this is my area of specialty. When I look at that bill and trying to decipher it, it's very difficult. And then you go to the website, and I was on the call yesterday with earlier this week with Marine Clean Energy, and they struggle to find that information. What is that? I guess get to my question is, and I would love to say, is there a move afoot to make the utilities make that more transparent so that owners can make more informed decisions? Or do you have any words of wisdom? Because that's your business, right? Understanding that.
Yeah, I think that when I show the technology stack in which you have AMI data, you have a system that can consume those data, and then expertise. I think that's where the expertise comes. So the first step for us has been to kind of have a rate engine, which is to automate rate comparison, but also to actually profile each rate. So we were able actually to automate at least 80% of the rate analysis. So I think that one of the value of the digitization and standardization of the data is to really help the customer to understand then what is taxes or no bypassable charges, what is demand charge, and what is energy usage. So I think that's give you a first a quick and easy first glance of what you are, how you are consuming energy, when you are consuming energy, and how much you are paying. So we have like a two pie chart and bar chart in which you can see from color actually where you are spending. Then if you need to really understand each of those items, we usually support our customer, and we do that for them. Honestly, we have talked with some CCA, community charge aggregation, and it's difficult to read the PGE bill or the utility bills for them as well. So they use like tools as well. So I think that I don't expect that the utility bill will get easier.
Right.
The tariff will get complicated, and the cost of energy will go up. So I think that having some sort of help or support or tools to help you on that will be. We can provide that services if you need. So just contact me.
And maybe to the thought, it just occurred to me is, I'm pretty persistent in these things, and took me a lot of time to get a straight answer. And maybe CC is having somebody from a PG&E to, if for the facilities that don't have the benefit of your services, so they get a paper bill that lands on their desk that has information, how to understand that and what you can do with those choices. Is that, something, I'm suggesting a follow-up presentation, but it certainly helped me, and hearing the conversation may help others. Don't know who that question would be. I guess it's Brian.
We can look into a follow-up presentation. I guess this question would also go back to Seth and Alberto. Do you guys have maybe some more follow-up or more data that could be presented on maybe a future presentation, or would you prefer maybe reaching out to John on a one-on-one level?
Yeah, I mean, John and I know each other well, so we can
Okay.
talk offline. Yeah, I'm, we're really just sort of in the early stages of this in terms of taking the data that we showed you, particularly in the nighttime stuff, and getting results out of it. So yeah, I'm hoping in a few more months we'll have a lot more of those the cases where it's like this and then right. Then we'll have some more case studies to share.
Great. Yeah, my question was more, and thanks you, Seth. And as I were talking, I remember, the interest of full disclosure, we missed the true up bill, which comes, and if those are aware of that on these projects that have renewables, and that's a big ticket item. And as you nodding, Brian, it was just sort of awareness of maybe just here's your bill, here's how to read it, this is what you can do with the information, with no cost to anybody else and no subscription.
Yeah, John, that's a good point. Your bill gets a lot more complicated when you have a DER asset on it.
Right.
You have net metering, credits, and then of course you get the annual true-up bill.
Well, thank you.
Very good. Any thoughts, or do you want me to jump into announcements yet, or do you have something to say?
No, I think, again, thank you, Seth and Colombo, and very informative. And Brian, I think in the interest of time, we should move on.
Okay, no worries. Want to again thank all our gold and silver sponsors. Your support is greatly appreciated. As we move to join or to plan future meetings, I'm looking for vendors that can actually facilitate meetings at your location. We're looking for conference rooms that can accommodate between 30 to 45 people. I would need audiovisual capabilities, possibly a flat screen. If this is something that you're interested on doing, please contact me direct. Pretty sure everybody has my contact information, but you get a hold of me through CSHI or intermessage me if this is something you want to do. I want to just talk real quickly about Annual Institute for Southern and Northern California seminars. CSHI 49th Annual Institute will be held in June of this year at the resort at Squaw Creek, June 1st through 3rd. CSHI Southern California Seminar will be held in September 15th of this year in Long Beach, and CSHI Northern California Seminar will be held October 20th in Fairfield, California. And lastly, just want to know what your feelings are as far as how the LA chapter is moving forward. Do you have a topic? Do you have something that you would be interested in on listening? Please reach me direct. And with that, I'll turn it over to Phil.
Yeah, I'd like to talk for a minute about the MEC program. MEC is a nationwide program for certification of experienced and qualified healthcare mechanics. If you have at least 2 years of healthcare experience and you want to become certified, the test will be given on the last day of the annual institute that's June 3rd. And to take the test, you must sign up at least 40 business days in advance. That means there are just 3 weeks left to sign up for the test that will be given at the annual institute. To sign up for the MEC test, you go to the MEC website. That's mec-certification.org. The fee is $170 for the MEC test, which includes a PDF study guide. There's a $20 additional fee for a hard copy. You should sign up as soon as possible if you want to take the test at the annual institute, so you have time to study for it. The MEC test is a multiple choice, 2-hour timed test. It covers plumbing, electrical, carpentry, general maintenance, HVAC and refrigeration systems, plant and boiler operations, and safety and support services. If you have 4 years or more experience and you pass the test, then you would be certified as a senior mechanic. And if you pass the test, you get a certificate and one of these cool little patches. Okay, that's it for me. Back to you, Brian.
Okay. That's all I have, Tom. I'll send it back to you if you want to close out the meeting.
Okay, well, I want to thank everybody for, their participation here today. All the gold and silver sponsors that help keep our organization running. I thought we had a great topic today, great presentation. If you have other ideas, we want to bring the proper programs to the facilities folks so that they're getting the information that they need and it's relevant. And looking forward to getting some in-person meetings, so more communication coming around that, and love to be able to, shake hands and see everybody again. So have a wonderful day and thank you for your participation.
Thanks,
Hey, Tom,
everybody.
Can I make a quick announcement, if I may, to the membership that's in attendance here?
Sure.
ATI is going to be exhibiting next week at the ASHI PDC in New Orleans. So come look for me at booth number 629 on Monday or Tuesday of next week. Thank you, Tom.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, everybody.
Hello.
Everyone.